Welcome back. My name is Chris Saginelli. I get to build, buy, and sell simple profit businesses every single day. And today we're going to be talking about a very unique and a very powerful concept that if you can unlock inside of your business can really drive a lot of value to your bottom line. And it is net negative CAC. And this is not a mythical unicorn. This is something that you can actually achieve. In fact, we're going to show you, if you stick with us to the end, how we're doing it for ourselves over at Bootstrapper Capital, where you can get the most affordable and flexible capital of choice for your business as you're building, buying, and selling along your journey. So getting into net negative CAC, what does it mean? It really means getting paid to acquire customers. And we're going to get into what it is, why it's important, and actually show you how to potentially achieve it in your business pretty quick inside of this video. So customer acquisition cost is CAC, right? So folks say CAC all the time. What does it actually mean? What does it actually stand for? Why is it relevant? And why is it a term that you really need to understand and realistically master inside of your business as you're traversing the 5 exits of ownership, right? So as you're building a profit-led business, if your goal and intention is to put more profit in your pocket, you really want to understand what CAC is, how to figure out CAC in your business, how you can pay attention to it, and then how you can leverage it to make better, timely decisions towards acquiring customers and flowing the profit through your business with positive unit economics, right? How are you making money in the process of running and operating your business? So when we're talking about customer acquisition cost, a lot of folks oftentimes think that this just means, the cost of running an ad and then having, an ad drive a new lead to your business. And because I spent $100 on an ad, my CAC is $100. Absolutely, really not the case, right? When we look at CAC, right, as a profit-led business, when we're putting more profit in our pocket and we're bootstrappers building better on a budget, right? When we're working with our portfolio of companies or any of the companies inside of the bootstrapper community, the ecosystem we're building of profit-led businesses, all that we focus on is everything, right? Because at the end of the day, everything matters. And we want to understand all of the landed aggregate costs required towards acquiring or applied towards acquiring a customer. So we look at the total acquisition cost, and then we divide that out by the number of net new customers. That's how we figure out CAC, and that's what we really promote and support folks to think about. Some folks only look at marketing costs, right? Not everybody's going to look at marketing plus sales, and not everybody is going to be looking at the full loaded budget associated with acquiring customers. So when we're talking about CAC, the components that we like to include are the marketing costs. So any of those expenses related to the ads, to the advertising, right? Both online and offline. Oftentimes, like, we're so just consumed with maybe running digital ads at this point that we forget that there's more, there's also offline ads. But we're also talking about the total landed cost of things like content creation. So if you're running SEO as a strategy, right? If you're creating content, if you're writing blogs and you're paying somebody, or there's a cost associated with the content creation so that you can then put that content out there, and then people who are searching with specific keywords that you're targeting find your content and they find you, and then they become a potential customer because of that. You acquired a customer, right? That's associated with CAC. If you're running email marketing and you're utilizing, outbound email, all of the activity associated with the outbound email, right? So if you're hiring people to do that work, the salaries associated with that, the commissions that are tied to converting the customers, right? All of that is tied to your CAC. If you're using platforms and systems and you have subscriptions that you're paying for, right? For example, we use HubSpot with a lot of our portfolio companies. If you're paying for a HubSpot subscription, or a Clay subscription, or any other one of these tools, Apollo, that Smart Leads, right? If you're using something to be able to help you, acquire customers, you want to bolt all of those costs in. You want to bundle the cost into your CAC budget. And that's ultimately going to get you the most realistic understanding of what it actually acquires, what is actually required to acquire a net new customer inside your business. And then remember, you're going to then divide that out by the number of new customers acquired. And what that is going to show you is it's going to show you how much it's actually costing you to acquire new business, right? To generate revenue inside of your business. How much does it cost you to put $1 of new profit in your pocket? And you really want to understand these because you want to get to the unit economics of your business so you could make better decisions in terms of building a better business, right? So we want to take this data and then we want to benchmark this data, right? So we're going to look at industry benchmarks. We're going to look at folks that are inside of our industry and we're going to say, hey, what is their CAC? What does it cost them to acquire a customer? And based off of that benchmark, we're going to be able to decide with data whether or not we're doing good or whether or not we're doing bad, right? And if we're doing bad, we want to be able to identify that fast because if we don't, we will end up out of business. Meaning, if our competitors are acquiring customers for cheaper, right? There's a really good chance that in the long run of business, they're going to put us out of business, right? So we want to be able to compete when it comes to acquiring the customer, right? One saying is whoever can, pay the most to acquire a customer will win in the long run. But realistically, it's whoever can acquire the customer best, for the longest period of time will likely win. And then also tied to that is this other thing called value delivery, which directly connects to your LTV or your lifetime value. So we want to understand what it's costing in our market to acquire a customer, how we're performing, and then we want to compare that cost of acquiring a customer to the lifetime value of that customer, meaning how much revenue is that customer generating for us after we have acquired them, right? So the lifetime value, how much revenue is being extracted from that customer relationship over the lifetime value. And then we want to make sure that we're making profitable decisions in terms of how we're acquiring customers and perhaps even more importantly, which customers we're acquiring. It's going to allow us to make better decisions when we're focusing because strategy equals focus, right? And when we pay attention to the data here, when you measure what matters and you're running the metrics that matter, you can be able to see what matters to you in your business and you can make better timely decisions, right? Meaning if one specific set of customer is costing the same as another set of segment of customer, right? But customer segment A is generating a lifetime value of 100 and customer segment B is generating a lifetime value of 50. It allows you to focus, right, in terms of which customers, who you should be acquiring, right? By segmenting your customer base, by paying attention to the data, by backing into what the customer acquisition cost is, how much lifetime value is being generated, how much revenue is generating, you can be able to make better decisions for your business over the long term. And that's going to help support sustainability. And that's a big critical component of being a profit-led business, right? You want to lead with the profitability and you want to hopefully make profit-led decisions in your business that are going to help you stay profitable, stay sustainable for the longest period of time, right? In terms of net negative CAC, what do I mean there? Because to be honest, this is maybe a relatively new concept even, right? So for the longest period of time, traditional conventional knowledge is, it requires, deploying capital, spending money, investing money to be able to acquire customers. But in the new age of doing business, you can actually get paid to acquire customers. And I'm going to show you in a second here a very simple version of a model of one playbook. And if you want this playbook, you can actually get the playbook. We have it in our community. You could deploy it. You could use it. So this is something that you can actually do for yourself in a very simple way. I'm going to show you how we do it for ourselves as well. But you can achieve net negative customer acquisition costs, which really means that the revenue that's being generated from acquiring a customer exceeds the cost of acquiring that customer right at the beginning. In a very, very, very simple way, if you can achieve net negative CAC, you're in a very good place as a profit-led business. This is like a holy grail situation to be able to achieve because it gives you a really significant competitive advantage in terms of building a better business, specifically a better business over time, right? So it's a great North Star strategy, great North Star focus, strategy equals focus to be able to figure out early and often inside your business. One way, one simple playbook example, right? Show and not tell in terms of what this could look like is right now, newsletters are very trendy. It's a trend, right? So, let's go deep into that because it's something that's, prevalent. It's probably out there on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you're probably seeing it in your news feed. If you're on YouTube, you're maybe seeing videos pop up about running newsletters, right? And then you may come across this concept of a media company or a micro media company or building negative CAC by a media-led business model. And there's a lot of folks that are adopting this media-first model to be able to achieve specifically net negative CAC, and that's the why, right? So if something's happening, a great thing to ask is why, right? Get to the why, right? Same way that we build wedge equity inside of businesses, which is unlocking value inside of a business. We build the wedge by starting with the valuation, right? We want to understand the valuation of business. We want to ask why. Why is this business worth that? By getting to the why, you can get to a plan, and then from a plan, you can execute, right? Make things tactical. So I want to ask, the why. Why are folks building these media first businesses right now? What's the why behind it? And the reality is it's a play to potentially achieve net negative CAC. And the way that it works is we have a newsletter in the middle. And a newsletter is, if you're not familiar, it's something, it's a piece of content. It's an email, right? Email based content that will end up in your inbox on a regular type of cadence, whether it's a daily cadence, a monthly cadence, weekly cadence, quarterly, right? But on a cadence, you're subscribing to a newsletter so that you receive a piece of content that delivers a very specific and explicit value. There's a purpose to be able to receive that newsletter, which is why people opt in. So great newsletters have great value propositions, and there's a reason why people want to subscribe and why somebody would want to receive this newsletter. But once you receive, once somebody subscribes to the newsletter, you have the permission, you have the opt-in permission to be able to send them that message, to send them that newsletter, and you own that inbox, right? So when somebody subscribes, that's something that, an algorithm can't necessarily take away from you. It's something you can control. So it's very valuable. It's an asset. It's something that you should really want to be able to build inside of your business. Right? So you have a newsletter, right, that you're running on a weekly basis, maybe a monthly, maybe a daily, right? Dailies are tough cadence to follow. Most often like a weekly, maybe a bi-weekly, something like that. And there's a purpose for somebody to subscribe. Now the goal is, how do I get more subscribers? How do I get more emails? How do I get more people to send this message to, right? That's the goal there is I'm going to create content and I'm going to send it out. In order to acquire the subscriber, the most common acquisition channels right now, especially in the B2B space specifically, is paid ads, right? So you're going to, give Zuck, you're going to give Meta or Google some money, and you're going to be able to do some segmented targeting, right? So you're going to identify the keywords and the persona of who it is that you want to get this potential ad in front of. And then based off the copy of that ad, the message that you're using, the offer in which you're making, copywriting, right? You're going to entice them to click and then subscribe. That's the goal of an ad, direct response, right? So you're going to put some budget towards that, and you're going to write some cool ads, and it's going to tie to the messaging and the value proposition, and hopefully you'll get some conversion. So maybe I put $1,000 of budget. I'm going to invest $1,000 towards paid acquisition, and that generates 500 leads for me. Right, $2 cost per acquisition, $2 per lead. Right, so that's my paid ad strategy. And the thing about paid ads is paid ads does scale, but eventually the costs start to rise as well, because you're using segmenting, and over time you're saturating your segment and it becomes more expensive to target the right person. So typically paid does rise over time, but it's fairly scalable. It's a matter of function of budget, right? Then you have another, strategy to be able to accomplish, achieving your subscriber targets. You want a net new subscriber basis, and email is another way. You can go and find, emails, or you could, reach out to your existing list of contacts that have yet to subscribe to your newsletter, and you can run an outbound sequence, a code outbound sequence. And you can say, hey, you're this business and I write this newsletter and I think it would be valuable to you, right? And because you're positioning something that you believe would be valuable and you're offering it to them for free and creation of value, you have the permission to be able to do that, and you could potentially drive subscribers through this strategy. In this structure, in this type of strategy, there's still a budget, right? Because you need to have, the infrastructure, the software. So this is where software would come into play. And you have $100 worth of software a month, and you get 100 leads. So it's $1 CPA, right? Another strategy that's very, prevalent and also successful to a certain extent is LinkedIn DMs. And it's similar as email, but you're just doing it through the LinkedIn platform, where it replace LinkedIn with any really social platform, and you could do social DMs. Again, you may have some software that's helping you. Maybe you have a LinkedIn Navigator. So simple example, math, $100 budget. You're getting 200 leads in this situation. It's a 50-cent CPA, right? The difference here is capacity and constraints, right? Scalability. Things like LinkedIn, these social platforms, you can only do so many outbound messages, like maybe 20 a day as your capacity. Emails, you're maybe doing 40 emails per inbox. And paid ads, your capacity is really your budget, right? How much budget do you have? So they scale differently. They perform differently. So aggregately combined, you're going to average out how many leads you get and how much you spend. And then that's going to get you the CAC on the CPA, customer of the cost per acquisition of the subscriber. And you're at $1.50 average. Now, how do I get to, so I get how you spent the money and I get how you acquire but how do you get to a net negative in this scenario? Well, through a newsletter, because you're creating content that's valuable to others, right? That's getting the attention and the eyeballs. There's value to the attention and the eyeballs of the audience that you're building up. So one very, very, very common traditional way in which you can, get to that net negative, and why folks are building these media first businesses, is if I can build content and deliver value at scale that's associated with my brand, tied to my messaging, right? For us, for example, we have Simple Profits as a newsletter. It's all tied to being a profit-led business and different structure strategies, right? And frameworks to be able to be a profit-led business, right? There's sponsors out there. There's other brands that want to borrow that attention, borrow those eyeballs. So they'll pay you. They'll pay you to put their brand embedded, integrated into your content. And that's a sponsorship. So you can get paid sponsorships. So in this scenario, we invested $1,200 to acquire the subscribers, but the sponsor is willing to pay us $1,000 to put their ad in our newsletter, right? On top of that, platforms like Beehive, which is what we use for our newsletter now, they have these functions, and like, honestly, there's a lot of different innovations coming out in the marketplace to be able to kind of optimize this whole micro media newsletters type of strategy. There's these things called boosts, where you can actually acquire a subscriber, and then you can activate this thing called boosts, where your subscriber is then boosted to other newsletters. They're shown other newsletters that they can also opt into. And if your subscriber chooses to opt into one of these other newsletters, which grows their subscriber base, right? So now you invested in the paid ads, the emails, the LinkedIn to acquire that customer, grow the ecosystem. If you share the love in a sense, or share that interest that you acquired, and they choose to opt into another newsletter, you can get paid for that opt-in from that other newsletter. And in this situation, we'll say it's $1, right? $1 per subscriber, because we're going to put up maybe 4 boosts or something like that. And there's a 25% opt-in, and you're getting paid $1 a boost. So in this situation, you can actually get to a net positive income inflow at the very beginning of your funnel, at the top of this funnel. And we're just using this as a very simple example. This is not a full, complete, customer acquisition system. This is not a full profit engine that we're talking about. I just want to use this because it fit nicely on one page, and it's a pretty simple concept, and it's something that you can actually deploy in your business pretty quickly, right? To just illustrate what we're talking about in terms of net negative CAC. So in this situation, you invested $1,200, and you're in a situation where you've been able to monetize more than that right from the very beginning. And the net byproduct is, because you own that subscriber, and because you're sending messages, in a cadence and a flow that's tied to your aligned value proposition, you can then drive a sales process, right? And you can actually acquire customers while generating revenue. So you're growing your lead list, you're growing your subscriber list, you're monetizing more than it costs you to be able to acquire those subscribers to feed your sales process, right? So a very simple example. In our situation, we actually do this. Like, this is something that we do ourselves with the Bootstrapper ecosystem. It's something that we've been testing out. I have other YouTube videos from, a year and change ago, where we went through the whole building public process of acquiring newsletters and building up our newsletter and growing the subscriber base to like 50,000 subscribers. And now we're on like well over, 300 issues to our newsletter. So this is actually, our Simple Profits newsletter. So you can, go to simple.beehive and you get to Simple Profits, master the 5 exits of business ownership, put more profit in your pocket, right? We test out different copy all the time. Sometimes it's like, get a simple framework a week to put more profit in your pocket, right? Different things like that. It's all copywriting to the value proposition, the message. And then the core thing is that you deliver it on a consistent basis. And consistency is key. This past issue, Simple Bets, we're talking about running a simple bet, right? Our YouTube channel typically is a teach, train, equipped around the content that we then build, structure with through our newsletter. And we actually deliver, meaningful teach, train, equips with both video and written. And then inclusive in it is typically a call to action, which this call to action is download a free Simple Bets template and get access to the community. And you click on it and it gets you, unlimited access through a checkout, right? So this is actually acquisition of a subscriber to then, funneling them through. And in our shop, over at shop.bootstrap or Capital, we use this as our lead magnets. So we'll create content on YouTube, we'll build the content via the newsletter, and then we'll create digital products that are paid, but then we'll offer promo codes and different types of promotions to be able to turn them into lead magnets, which then capture the cart. And the goal is to be able to capture the cart so that we can then start our sales process, right? Meanwhile, through the newsletter, we run sponsorships, right? So coming back to the newsletter itself, Free Stuff Sunday, that's usually like a sponsored type of campaign. So this one was in sponsorship with this brand. We usually will call out that they're sponsored and we get paid for this. And we run the same playbook. It's a sponsorship, and then we try to deliver value to our funnel as well. And then we also position the sponsorship. We get paid, and we get paid to be able to acquire customers on a negative CAC basis. Now, when you plug this in with other things such as our community, right? So you can easily extend this model, for example. So like if we wanted to, instead of sales process here, we could turn this into what we do with the Bootstrapper ecosystem, and you could plug in a community container. And this is a way to build up MRR, right? So in our model, you have the opt-ins. It typically will start like a free trial or something of that nature at the checkout, but it usually drops folks into the community. We have like 600 folks inside this community right now. And then through the community, you get access to, for us, it's a journey to activation around becoming a profit-led business, right? So we'll work folks through what we call an exit ready challenge, which is really like an activation process. We get folks a personal exit plan, right? But this is a way to then extend this model. And through the community container, instead of having a CRM, right? Instead of using like your HubSpot through a traditional sales process and just like maintaining relationships through consistent outreach and touch bases, you can convert folks into a community. You can build relationships at scale by delivering value fast. And, if you choose to do a paid community, you can grow a subscription basis. You can grow monthly recurring revenue through this model while you're still maintaining relationships, delivering value at scale, and identifying opportunities to position additional things to be solutions to be able to sell, right? Best way to build a relationship is to sell somebody something. Best way to keep a relationship is to sell them something else, right? And grow value through value delivery. So that's ultimately what we do through our community. It's how we capture through the checkout of the Shopify store, and then we convert through the newsletter and through things like this YouTube channel. And it's quite literally practicing what we teach to be able to get to negative CAC. And when you're able to do this, you can create a flywheel effect. And ultimately, if you have something that's like a subscription basis, like a community, for example, community container here, right? Or if you're able to get to good unit economics with the sponsorships or boost, you can ultimately get to a flywheel where the monetization of growing your newsletter actually fuels and funnels the cost. And essentially you could get to a flywheel where you're at break even economics of acquiring new subscribers, or quite literally you could be profitable, right? And you can grow and scale through profitability, being a profit-led profit engine, right? Which is profit engines, what we call, revenue engines. It's how you acquire customers and then ultimately nurture them through a close, and then, retain them, as a win in a relationship for value over time to maximize the lifetime value of your customer. All right. So this is something that's very, very real. I think it's really cool. It's a concept that's relatively new. Hopefully more people will be showing and not just telling, right? I don't want to just hear what people are doing. I want to see how they're doing it, right? I think there's a lot of folks that are building really cool businesses around this, but in general, like CAC is a term that you should know, right? You should be able to measure what matters. You should know what matters in your business, right? If you want to run a profit-led business, right? Know your numbers, organize around profitability, right? And CAC is something that's critically important. So regardless of whether or not you have a negative acquisition engine running, or if you're just running a more traditional model, which is perfectly okay, everything starts somewhere. As long as you're going, right? That's what matters. Just get started, right? But you should always know your CAC. This is a very important number. You should know your CAC. You should know your lifetime value. You should know your gross margins, right? Until next time, trust the process, commit to the journey. If you enjoyed this video and you watched the end, I appreciate it, right? Definitely trying to build up this channel for sure. We've been doing a lot of building publics about that in general. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate it for sure. Check out some of the templates in the store. We have a playbook around building negative CAC profit engines. Check that out. Find it. You get it for free. Use the promo code Bootstrapper. It's in the show notes below. Till next time, trust the process, commit to the journey.